Welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions Internet. We're gonna keep rocking with episode number 41 of the CubbyWhole podcast. Yeah. Uh, oh yeah. Now I sound like Travis Miles. All right, let's get some knowledge.
This also correlates to that circle dot mythology in the stellar mythos. But the single point was the all-seeing eye, or the grand architect of the universe, seen as omniscient and omnipresent, all-knowing and ever-present in all places. So it was looked at as the divine creative principle. Now, it is important to note that it was not considered a deity, even though I may use that word here sometimes, because deity or deity has to do with the day sky. So it is important to distinguish those two things. I thought I would just add that in since we're speaking on this topic. This is the true origins of the all-seeing eye symbolism, or the one eye symbolism and story. One place that we can find this story is in the Norse mythology with Odin and his one eye throughout his story. Now, Norse mythology is very interesting because it is a very robust culture, and this is why most of their mythos stands firm today, and they preserve a lot of the stellar mythology. So it's very important to study Norse mythology. I'm not as well versed as I should be on Norse mythology, but I am getting more into that. But it does tie up into what we're talking about here, especially when it comes to things like Thor's gavel or his hammer, which is the gavel of Ursa Minor. But some people do associate that to Ursa Major when he's swinging it around, and Ursa Major becomes the tool of the one great architect. So they consider in Norse mythology that Thor's hammer is Ursa Major when it is spinning. So think of the Marvel character Thor when he spins his hammer, and think of Thor as the one great architect. And so I do see relevance in that symbolism as well. So we're going to move on to the next slide, and I hope that I clarified the origins of the all-seeing eye at a decent level for people who don't understand that. So where do we see the all-seeing eye? Well, we see it all over the place. We see it in media, we see it in Freemasonry, we see it in religion, we see it all over the place, right? And yeah, it's true that not every time you see the all-seeing eye, it's being used subversively. You know, we have it so popularized now that just because you have an all-seeing eye on doesn't mean that you're immediately part of the Illuminati. I have an all-seeing eye in my backyard, and, you know, it's a stone pyramid with the all-seeing eye on the top. And I'm not part of the Illuminati, but I do consider all of us to be truly the real Illuminati. But when I speak on that level, in that context, I mean the dark Illuminati. I'm not part of the dark illuminated ones, right? So one of the main places that you can see the subversive use of the all-seeing eye is in Hollywood and in music. You see so many actors and actresses using the symbol of the one eye all over the place. And if you look at the slide that I have provided, you'll see plenty of examples of specifically females in these examples using the one eye symbolism, usually where they're blocking out one of their eyes and you can only see the other, or even they're blocking it out with some form of creature or something is obscuring one eye. And in one image here, you have one lady who, it looks like Lady Gaga. I believe that's Lady Gaga. She has half of her face is mechanical, and the other half of her face is human. And I think that this definitely represents the one eye symbolism in that context as well. So, you know, just look around. You'll find the one eye everywhere in this world. There is no place that you will not find the one eye symbolism.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely prevalent for sure. And, you know, it's all to, especially to rile up the conspiracy theorists and to make them look crazy. I know it's definitely used for that reason as well. But the thing is,
while it's on the loading screen, now you have gosh, Squirt. Now you have the Lady Gaga movie, all these baby names with all these, pop artists and associated with the baby names. Now you have her with the Joker movie. They put her in the Joker movie recently. And think about that related to the tarot, right? Like she's the fool. She's the Joker card. She's the I forget the name of it. Yeah, the fool card in relation to tarot. It's important to notice these things and think about them. But I wouldn't recommend going to go see that movie though.
Most people don't even know what it really means. They just know that, it seems like it's associated with evil, which, it is in a lot of ways, but people don't know how to explain it because they haven't done enough work to understand where it comes from. And were you going to say anything else about the eye?
No, I just wanted to move. I was going to move forward into the fasci symbolism, and then that would be it. And then you could take it from there.
Well, the other eye, the other part of understanding the eye is understanding the all-seeing eye, which is the circled dot, and understanding that the circled dot, or the dot within the circle, is, I like to look at it as it is the symbol of alchemy in its truest form, because that's what it's about. It's about becoming raised into the all-seeing eye, to be aligned with the all-seeing eye. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring light to our eye, which corresponds to the all-seeing eye. It doesn't mean you have the mind of God or anything like that, but understanding that in the stellar mythos, they venerated Horus in that circled dot, and then as it came down into the solar mythos, eventually circled dot ended up becoming the sun. It represented the sun, and it, obviously when you understand alchemy, you understand that both of those are equally as important, because the sun equals light, and then to have light, to raise into light, is to be aligned with the Most High, which is from the stellar mythos, it is the circle dot, which is Polaris, and the encompassing circle, which is the feminine, and then the dot in the middle, which is masculine, so that you have the electromagnetism at the molecular level as well. And when you see how that's subverted, you see, it is a target. And, like if you go to the store Target, it's targeting the all-seeing eye, the eye, the third eye, or the eye of the all. And obviously, as Brandon pointed out with Walmart, you have these stores that are subverting the source. You have Walmart subverting the gavel as the source, and you have Target targeting your mind with the subversive source. So it's very, very, very interesting to see how that symbol comes down, how it's evolved, and what we should be using it for, which is alchemy, and then understanding how it's being used on those who don't understand, because it clearly is the target, and it is the bull's eye. So, which Brandon broke down the bull symbolism in the other episode very well. So it's all tied together, and I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's very important to make clear as well, the circle dot. I'm glad that you brought that up. I actually have a slide that we can provide as well that I have made about the circle dot, and I'll go ahead and throw that in this collection for people. Yeah.
I mean, that symbol is so powerful in the sense that it can reveal so much about ourselves and our history. So, that's a topic that we could, do a whole few shows on.
No doubt with that. No doubts there. Okay, so I'm going to move on here to the next and final symbol here. So if you continue along with us, we're moving through these slides progressively, and the next slide is the fasci symbol, which is a satellite of bundled sticks wrapped around a single pole with a single-headed axe. And this has been used throughout history to represent dominion, control over a dominion, to represent the binding principle of authority over man. So it represents combined power, to unify power and to control something. It represents man's authority. It also represents slavery, materialism, left brain imbalance, and primacy in the north or day sky. So I was speaking about the single-headed axe earlier, so this is a really good example of the single-headed axe and how it gets brought down into the solar mythology and how it gets perverted and used for the ideas of man's authority. And we find this symbol all over the place. We find it on our currency. We can see on the next slide, we find the single-headed axe, the fasci symbol, on the currency of a dime, the United States dime. We find it in Nazi Germany. This is where most people find this symbol. So if you look at the top left symbol, you can see Hitler, and you can see the fasci symbol on the left side of that image. We find it in the courtrooms. We find it in all kinds of judicial buildings, and we find it also, let's say, the Lincoln Monument. If you look on either side of the pillars that Lincoln is sitting in of his throne, there's two pillars, left and right, and you can see the satellite symbols with the binding around all of those sticks. So it's a bundle of sticks that is all wrapped together. And this has to do with amplified power because it's more sticks wrapped together. It's more things put together, more satellite states all bound together to make one centralized authority. So this represents centralized authority over this dominion. So this is one of the most subversive symbols that we have of the single-headed axe. And I mean, I found this symbol in monuments in, places like Cincinnati, and, where there was this general handing there's this giant statue in the Cincinnati Park, and he's handing over the symbol of the fasci to the people. He's handing it down. It's really interesting, the symbolic nature of that. So just keep your eyes out, especially for this symbol. But let's break down the green language of this word, fasci. So fascia is really interesting. I did a lot of studying on fascia in the past, and I have this book. It's called Demonology, the Encyclopedia of Demonology. And when you look up the word fasci, it tells you to look up the word fascination. So it's very interesting that fascination is spelled very similar to fasci. We have the same phonetic pronunciation that's going into that. So it's the fasci nation, obviously. So you have fascination, which is the fasci nation, or a fascist nation, because most people are fascinated with everything in the world. They're being bound and centralized with their mindset to only focus on politics, to only focus on all the fear mongering coming from the media, to focus on the false propaganda entertainment industry, where they're being mind controlled. And so this is really interesting when you look this word up. And whenever you look up the word fascination in this demonology encyclopedia, it tells you to look up the word the evil eye, which I found very interesting. So the evil eye gets associated with the double-headed horns, the symbol that a lot of metalheads use, or the horns of Baphomet as well. So there is a direct association to the fasci and the evil eye, the dark eye, the Illuminati's eye is what I would call it. That is, the eye that's controlling this world. So that ties in with that all-seeing eye symbolism. I just thought I'd add that in there. But yeah, I mean, this symbol is extremely powerful. And, do you have anything you want to add onto that, Nate?
I think that it definitely is a symbol that, I find myself to be a little ignorant to still, but, I try to look at symbols dualistically, and, I look at it as it could also be a symbol of the middle chamber, which, something we're going to get into on the show in future shows. And, I look at it as a spiritual weapon, and it's like a staircase. And I think that, when you see, single-headed axe, we can say that this is a imbalance, and we can also say that it is possibly a way that we, fight back when we are being, oppressed or under duress. And I think it is symbolic of that. But, has it been subversively used? Sure. And, I think it's definitely a study that I'm definitely going to be looking further into, but it is very, very important that we look at these symbols dualistically for sure, because if we don't, we're not going to reveal the full picture. We're only going to reveal half the picture, and that's something we're also going to go further into, trying to understand these symbols. So yeah, I mean, single-headed axe is very important to pay close attention to when regarding the solar cult, for sure. So
absolutely. That's why I gave the caveat that none of these are unidirectional, and that they are all, they both have positive and negative uses. So the example I was specifically giving here is the subversive use of the symbol, and how it is being used by man's authority and man's dictatorship to reign control over other men. There is some circle dot symbolism in the fasci as well, because you have the circle of the bundle of sticks, and then you have the center pillar, the center stick in the middle, that is the dot, which is the center totem. So there's a lot of symbolism within all of these symbols that we can look at. And I find the binding of this is very interesting too, because it could be binding us back to that circle dot, or it could be binding, as in a religious binding as well. So there's positive and negative context to all these symbols. They're not just one way or another. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
How many sticks is there? Is like 13 sticks in that bundle, or 12 or something?
I think there's 13. I believe there's 13 sticks.
Yeah, it's such a interesting symbol for sure. I have a lot of photos of it too. It's definitely on my list of something to study more. So, was there anything else that you wanted to add on that, or that you were going to cover?
Nope, that is it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, all this symbolism is really, really important, and we are going to go into what I feel needs to really be understood in order to really make sense of all this. And I think, the best thing that we can do to understand the stellar, the solar, the lunar, and all the other symbols that we've covered so far is, we have to get to the, work at the base. And to work at the base, is to understand where all of this really comes from, or what the science is. And we're going to explain something we've touched on in previous shows that's very important and, in my opinion, is extremely misunderstood and overly demonized, even within the so-called truth movement. And this topic is so critical, so crucial to the student that is truly in search for truth itself. And my position is, if we don't understand the science and art of Freemasonry, then we'll most likely be blindly wandering in darkness forever. And I know that sounds insane and crazy, but Brandon and I are hoping to clear some of the confusion up right now regarding this topic, and it's so important. So let's look at the word Freemasonry. We have the word free and masonry. So first, what's the difference between a mason and masonry? Among many derivations, mason simply means builder, so a person who builds. And masons build together. So minds build together who are principled and are morally aligned to natural law, because a mason is one who builds and co-creates reality with others. So in that sense, anyone who is co-creating a moral society is truly a mason in the truest nature of the word. So a builder, not a destroyer. This is about understanding the first Hermetic principle of mentalism. There are many organizations and orders which form portions of the widespread fraternity of Freemasonry, each having its own structure and terminology. And collectively, these may be referred to as Masonic lodges, Masonic temples, Masonic orders, and rites, such as the Scottish or York Rite. And as far as I know, each Masonic lodge confers or grants its Masonic initiates the first 3 Masonic degrees, which is Entered Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and Master Mason. And degree meaning lower to higher condition of knowledge. And Entered Apprentice, the Fellowship, and Master Mason are symbolically representative of consciousness, meaning thought, emotion, and action. And I wanted to add that looking back through history into the modern day, much of the lodge systems around the world have been highly corrupted and bereft of spiritual wealth. And that's what much of this subversive use of sacred symbolism is all about. The solar, the lunar, the stellar, the eye, and pyramid. It's all Freemasonic symbolism that's been subverted by dark occult sorcerers or the elite, or the dark hierarchy, for the purpose of what? Of control. So Mason simply means builder. Now, the word masonry is of 2 kinds of meanings, which is operative and speculative masonry. Operative masonry is an art, and of course, it is Freemasonry. It's about being engaged in the application of the rules and principles of architecture and the construction of buildings for private and public use. It's for homes of masons and temples or lodges for the worship of deity. This art has been the foundation on which has been built the speculative science of Freemasonry for hundreds of thousands of years. So then you ask yourself, who were the pyramid builders? The lectures of the symbolic degrees instruct the beginner to the difference between the operative and the speculative divisions of Masonry. They tell him that, quote, "We work in speculative Masonry, but our ancient brethren ornamented in both operative and speculative," unquote. The distinction between operative art and a speculative science is therefore familiar to all Masons from their early instructions. To the Freemason, operative art has been symbolized in that intellectual deduction from which it has been correctly called speculative Masonry. And speculative Masonry is also another name for Freemasonry, and its modern acceptance may be briefly defined as the scientific application and the religious consecration of the rules and principles, the language, the implements, and materials of operative Masonry to the veneration of the Creator, the purification of the heart, and the teaching of the dogmas of religious philosophy. Speculative Masonry, or Freemasonry, is a system of morality and must therefore, like all other ethical systems, have its distinctive doctrines. These may be divided into three classes, which are the moral, the religious, meaning, religion in the sense of binding to truth and natural law, and then the philosophical. And therefore, its definition is one that declares it to be a science of morality. And morality is said to be symbolically one of the precious jewels of a master Mason. And let's not forget about the word free, which means not under the control of or in the power over another. So basically able to act or be done as one wishes while aligned in natural law. So meaning not bound, not in captivity. It is supposedly a rule of Freemasonry that no one can be initiated who is at the time restrained of his liberty. And logically, that makes sense. Otherwise, there's no free in Freemason. Okay, so looking at this slide with the words Freemason and Freemasonry, a lot of people get the words Freemason and Freemasonry confused way too often. First, as I've said, Freemason is a builder, a builder of spiritual stone or physical stone, or both, whether within a lodge institution or not. And Freemasonry is the craft. It's the science, the art, the allegories, the symbols. Freemasonry itself is not. It's not people. It's not Freemasons, which are people. Nor is Freemasonry good or evil. And Freemasons are not limited to lodges only. Also, it's important to note the behavior of an individual Mason is what can generate good or evil in the world. So it's about behavior of each individual. So Freemasonry is a discoverable symbolic science within nature. The science which is engaged in the investigation of the meaning of symbols and application of their interpretations to moral, religious, and philosophical instruction. In this sense, Freemasonry is essentially a science of symbolism. It is the science that gives humans the potential to evolve into his or her higher type. Freemasonry helps man understand and align with the immutable cosmic laws within creation so that he or she knows how to find inner peace and live harmoniously with nature. Freemasonry is the tool of reflection and transcendence of dogma. Simply, it is the moral science to not do to others what you would not have done to you. So like the golden rule. And in short, Freemasonry is a system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. To ignore and throw this spiritual science out because of the corruption of some Freemasons, so the people, then this becomes one of man's biggest mistakes in his or her journey to discover truth, which is definitely going on all over the world. And, you know, it's by design. We're made to act that way and behave that way.
I think you hit the nail right on the head with Freemasonry, Nathan. That is a very, very simplistic and very easy to understand explanation of what Freemasonry is. Hold on a second, my dogs are going nuts.
Okay, guys, this episode is at its end. Hope you found clarity and value in this show today, and you can find more shows, presentations, and news at CubbyWhole.com. That's CubbyWhole.com. Plus, Douglas Martin's, Brandon's, and my work is now up on OneGreatWorkNetwork.com. It's really awesome. Also, please make sure to keep your eyes out for the next show, as Brandon and I will be going further into the methods of manipulation, and possibly we will have another guest on as well. And as for now, a new show comes out every Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, so stay tuned for more. And if you have any questions regarding the topics for these shows or the Seed for Growth event, please email us at cubbyhole@mail.com. That's cubbyhole@mail.com. Also, any donations are appreciated, as anything that's given will go directly to the CubbyWhole website. Just hit the donation button on the website and it's set up pretty easy to operate from there. So, okay guys, I'm your host Nate Cap. Thank you for listening, and remember, do no harm, defend truth, and keep transcending dogma.
Alright, another episode in the books. I'm going to keep grinding today. I'm going to be doing a lot of grinding. I'm really trying to get to that Mark Passio episode because everybody needs to hear it. Everybody needs to hear all of these episodes. But I think that one with Mark Passio would really help get his name out there, because still I talk to people I talk to people at work, you know, not that many people know his name, and I think a lot more people need to know his name. They need to know about the work he's doing. They need to know about the website he's doing, about the One Great Work Network. I mean, he has multiple websites. Like the One Great Work Network is one of my favorites. Like the guys just mentioned it. They're on the One Great Work Network, an amazing website of a bunch of amazing content creators, all talking about deep moral philosophy. Some great minds on that website. Some great minds. So, gonna keep grinding. Hopefully I'll get to that Mark Passio episode today. Sorry if if it's kind of boring, if the content's not that entertaining, but it's okay. It's not necessarily about the gaming content. These grinding episodes are about the CubbyWhole. I want you to focus more on the gaming content with like the Apex and the Fortnite, the W-dubs, you know what I'm saying? Focus more on the W-dubs, but for this, focus on the content, and maybe even watch these episodes multiple times. I'm about to shoot this cow. Hey, what's they doing in my house? What's that ragstag doing in my damn house? Anyways, get him out of the house. Get out of the house! I got this cow behind me, Jesus. Now he's going in the house. Get out of there! What are you doing? Jesus. Alright, so I'm gonna keep grinding. But thank you if you made it this far. If you want to support the channel, use code BeagleEyeVision at w.gg. I'll put the link in the description. Definitely get you some of that gear, get you some of that merch. Stock up. I want to get some of them shirts too, but we'll see. I don't know. Thank you again if you made it this far. Gonna keep grinding. Stay tuned and stay golden, everybody.